Hey guys, so in this video I wanted to share my experience with the SAT and how to prepare. So when I was preparing, I struggled with knowing how to prepare, where to even get started, what books or online sites to use. So today I'll be sharing everything that I used and why it helped me. So if you're someone who's confused on how to even start preparing for the SAT, I hope that after this video you'll have a clear picture on what you need to do. So I talk mainly about the SAT, but this also works for the ACT as well. So let's get started. So I'll be explaining how to study, when to study, and how not to stress. So first up, I want to explain a little bit about how the SAT and ACT work. So they're standardized exams, which means that they're scored in consistent or standard manner. So this means that College Board, the organization that administers the SAT, it doesn't want to run into problems with students arguing with them that their answer choice is correct, even though it was marked wrong. It doesn't want to run into problems like that. So that's why College Board makes sure that for every question, there's only one correct answer. They have some specific reasoning behind why only that one answer choice is correct and why everything else is incorrect. For example, if it's a reading question, there may be two answer choices that seem right to you, but there'll be some indication for why one of the answer choices is wrong. Maybe one specific word of that answer choice is making the entire answer choice wrong. Everything else might seem right about it, but that one word might be wrong. So it's up to us to figure out, what that one word is and pick the right answer choice at the end. So the reason I'm explaining this is because it's important later on. The main thing I did to prepare for the SAT is getting used to the College Board SAT questions. We need to get used to the College Board style questions because that's what administers the SAT, and so we need to get used to all the different ways that they try to trick us to pick the wrong answers. We can only do this by practicing College Board SAT questions, so there's no need to use other prep books as they won't have College Board style questions. So what I mainly did to study is I found a bunch of actual SAT previous exams online. I just searched up past SAT exams on Reddit, and I found a whole bunch, more than I'll ever need. And even the ones that I took in the past are probably on the list right now. So this is, I would say, the best way to study because these are actual College Board exams. So this is the best way to get used to the patterns and tricks that College Board plays on us. So apart from just practicing a bunch of previous SAT exams, to actually learn the concepts, like for math and writing, to actually learn the math concepts, I used Khan Academy. Khan Academy is a great resource because it's actually linked with College Board, so it has actual College Board style questions. So as I said before, that prep books are not as useful as we think because they wouldn't have College Board questions, while Khan Academy is something that we can actually use since it is linked with the College Board. So now I'm just going to talk briefly about each subject. So for the SAT math, I learned the concepts by doing Khan Academy, and to practice questions I used the past College Board SAT exams. So I didn't do a whole lot for math because it's mainly just Algebra 1 and 2, I already knew that. It also had some geometry, I think, and the main new subject that I didn't know was statistics. But luckily for me, junior year of my high school, I was actually taking a stats class, so that basically covered whatever questions were on the SAT, because the most basic questions come up on the SAT, the most basic stats questions. So by the time I took the SAT, I had already learned those in my stats class. So that's something you can think about. If you're not yet a junior in high school, you can think about taking a stats class in your junior year so that you wouldn't have to study for stats separately. But if not, that's also okay. I'm sure that the stats concept should be on Khan Academy or any other book. So that's really it for math. Not a whole lot, just reviewing the concepts and doing practice questions of previous SAT exams. So now for the SAT writing, So writing should be pretty simple. Just keep practicing. Once you take 5 to 6 past College Board SAT exams, you'll understand the similar patterns of questions and how to answer them. This is what happened to me. I used to score on the lower side in writing, and after I took just 5 writing past tests, then when I took the actual exam, I started scoring on the higher side. So actually, when I was taking the practice exams, my scores didn't seem to be improving that much, so I was kind of worried whether I would improve or not. But on the actual exam, I was improving a lot. So yeah, just a bunch of practice for writing. So an example of similar patterns of questions that you'll find while practicing the writing exam is, so there was one question that every time I took the practice tests, I would always spend a lot of time on it, and half the time I would get the question wrong. But after doing several times of practicing, I figured out that the answer to the question was always in the paragraph above it, above where the question was located. The answer was always in the paragraph above it. So once I figured that out, that question became pretty easy, because I would be able to solve it faster, and I think I got it right ever since I figured that out. So not every question has like a pattern like that, but those are some things to look out for, which you'll understand if you practice more. So guys, I don't even have a slide for reading because, to be honest, I could never really crack the SAT reading. It just seemed too hard for me, and I didn't practice a whole lot, but whenever I did, I didn't seem to be really improving. So, but the good news is, I think you can definitely get a good score by improving your writing and math. Even if you just do okay on reading, if you can get a high score in writing and math and still get into at least the 1400s, which is definitely a decent score to get into a decent university. So I wouldn't worry a whole lot about reading. Maybe first focus on writing and math, and then if you have time, you can practice reading. So now let's move on to when should we study for the SAT. So when I was in high school, I thought that it would take like years to study, from freshman year to junior year, 3 years. But actually, that didn't turn out to be true. And me and everyone I know studied for it in junior year. So it really just takes about 1 to 3 months before the exam. If you study like 6 months before, then when time for the exam comes near, you might forget all that SAT tricks and tips that you learned. You'll kind of be out of that SAT mindset. So even if you do start studying earlier, right when you get close to the exam, like 1 to 2 weeks before, I would suggest taking a few practice tests to get back into the SAT mindset. So now we're at the most important part, how not to stress. So I don't know about you, but I was very stressed when I was taking the SAT, and I really wish I wasn't, because I know I got a good score at the end, but I do wish I didn't stress as much. It really is just one exam. It's just an exam to get into college, and it doesn't matter as much as we think what college we get into. The skills you learn are more important than the college name, because for all of us, our end goal is probably getting the job that we want, and that depends more on the skills that we develop, and that's later on, like in college. So for now, for the SAT, I would put some good effort to prepare, but not worry too much about the score. I know that even if we don't care much about the score, it might be pressure from our parents that makes us stressed, but overall, I would keep in mind the big picture, that this is just 1 year of your life, and worst case, you get a bad score, and that's okay too. You can deal with whatever consequences. So yeah, overall, I hope this video helped you if you were confused on how to approach preparing for the SAT, and I wish you good luck.